there are different reasons for Nocturne. You could
bad.
just kill him instantly. So
There's that. But in the mid lane, Chowie showed. Diomu's Ghost Blade, full damage, kill all the people. That will kill Kog'Maw fast. So we're waiting for the Nocturne counter pick to Kog'Maw in this draft.
all right, we'll see how it goes for them. Okay, looks like they want to take Maokai if they're going to ban the Fizz against Someday.
That's a lot of respect to Peekaboo. Necessary after what they felt in Game 1. That would have been insistent whichever lineup they went to. So Thresh banned as the first ban.
The problem is if you ban the Fizz, that means that you must first pick Maokai because you can't give Maokai up to KT because they're even more free to pick it up now. And what does that mean? If Alistar is available, Peekaboo is a really good Alistar player too, and you give him another champion that he can engage with and make plays with. They banned the Azir against the Nocturne for the second game in a row, and Rise. So if they don't pick Maokai, they've screwed up. They're going to pick Victor, I guess. GBM's a good Victor player, but do you really want to give Someday that Maokai again?
You just lock in Maokai, Alistar, and laugh, I think, if you're KT.
Absolutely, 100%. You don't care about this at all.
Maokai, Kog'Maw, also fine.
That's true. Jin Air will take the Kog'Maw in the second round of the draft. Peekaboo's played a little Braum, played a little Janna so far. Some games Peekaboo has been off. You and I talked about that Spenu series. He wasn't playing his best. So he certainly hasn't been consistently at that level we saw him in the last game.
I think it's unfair to kind of ask him to be consistent after he's coming off from an injury layoff, after he's coming off just not getting a lot of game time. Has his off games, and that's understandable.
Now, KT has prioritized this Echo for score. He is the best jungle Echo we have seen so far. He plays around the parallel convergence very well in the front line, but maybe just reverting to a Rek'Sai.
He's pretty damn good at the Rek'Sai too.
Yeah, he certainly is. So, what is Wing going to bring to this team? You have to imagine that Chaser does a lot of that shot calling, and I mean, why ban Fizz if you're just going to give up the Maokai? That's my main question.
I mean, you have a plan. That's the only reason I can see for it. You need something else. What is your pocket pick to deal with this? Is it maybe a Shen? Is it Shen time? Just go for a different type of top lane tank that kind of just have a farm lane against the Maokai and cause headaches in the late game. Rek'Sai already gives you another quasi-global to answer it, but yeah, if you're just going to give up Maokai and you don't have the, kill lane threat of Fizz, it just feels like a poor draft.
Just a wasted ban. There's no problem with letting your opponent have Maokai. Obviously, he's a strong pick, but why waste a very crucial ban against that pick? Like you said, it could be a Shen, but even so, you're. I don't know about this.
Trace hasn't played Shen.
I'm waiting to see how it plays out, Papa Smithy.
Okay.
Calm it down. Calm it down. All right. Okay, Alistar probably will be taken, and they're going to grab the Echo once again. Actually, Janna. So it looks like it's kite time for Jin Air. They're going to play a kite Victor comp this time instead of an engaged Victor comp.
The Nidalee Looms is a great pick. If Chaser was in the lineup, don't know if Winged has really been defaulting towards the Nidalee, but does loom as a threat with the champions that have already been selected. KT showed nothing in their first round, so where do they want to go with this draft?
Kog'Maw. There's no threat. Where's the primary engage coming from?
Echo.
No. It's not Echo, it's not Janna. Wow, why would you take Sivir here? Okay, there's Annie. So you have some engage on this. Maybe they just want Sivir so that Jin Air can't kite as effectively because they do like to run Sivir and Victor in kite composition.
You know when you close your eyes and you're smelling, you're like, what does that smell like? It smells like a kite comp. Maybe it's time to go Sivir Annie and suss it out before it even comes to be.
Yeah, it's true. And they also have the Maokai already, so they're not short on methods of engagement onto Jin Air.
It just seems like they're calling the bluff. They're saying, okay, looks like kite comp. I see the Janna. It's the queen of disengage.
I don't know why you would take the Janna this early. It gives away too much.
I mean, they first picked their mid laners. They were already volunteering important information over on the blue side. So, yeah, we'll have to see where Jin Air goes. Because now, do you risk some sort of immobile mid, immobile top laner, or, I mean, a very aggressive, like, snowball jungle like Nidalee? It doesn't seem like it's really realistic. Of course, they have the Echo already, so it's probably going to be the jungle pick.
Rumble should be the pick in the top side if we know Trace will aid with the kiting, so Pilot probably going back onto the Corki, you'd imagine. Now, I suppose they could take Gnar, but that doesn't really help them with their kiting that well.
It's not kiting anymore, really. They've got some good turret poke, I guess. Throw down the Victor Gravity Field and try and use those Trinity Force Corki auto attacks to take down structures, but Still not a really cogent identity that Janna really adds to.
No, definitely not. And you also have to worry very much about a kill lane from Sivir and Annie. Of course, you have them on soon by the time that Annie hits 6, but if Rek'Sai's there, that could be a quick death for Pilot and Che, and they're just going to lock it in. So the Gnar will be the selection. I'm really surprised that the Gnar is taking priority over the Rumble in this particular game. Of course, maybe they want that winning matchup in topside. They want to have that Gnar pressure. To Trace's credit, he did all he could in that topside last game. He harassed Maokai, he chipped the tower down, he got the tower down in the topside by himself.
I was going to say, Trace played his role perfectly. I mean, the team fight didn't come together, but the team was so far behind that there was really no options. We saw him show up at fights with 90 rage and then just have to kind of saunter away with nothing he could do. So that was the least of their problems last game. So let him pick it again. Wait to see where KT goes with their mid laner. Nangnai, of course, a noted Cassio player. I believe undefeated on this champion this season. Guess it wouldn't be too much of a surprise.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they want to opt into this matchup again because Cassiopeia isn't going to probably have that same advantage, but who knows? The Annie's up for Peekaboo. He could still make a very similar play to the one he made in Game 1, but considering that GBM is going to be wise to his tricks, that probably is not going to pan out. They're still going to lock the Cassie in.
But what does Echo do without reliable CC in any lane? Farm?
How do they engage? They can't. There's no primary engage besides a flash Gnar ult.
They take all the turrets and then get a flank with Gnar?
It's not a good comp from Jin Air. Sure, it's not unwinnable, but they have to rely on huge flash plays out of Trace, really, to set up the kind of crowd control that they need to succeed. Meanwhile, KT has 1,000,001 ways to engage on them.
Yeah, Jin Air gives up a couple of dragons, don't even have that to kite back to. Feels like KT's going to run them over again.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, the best thing you can say about Gnar is I guess he can Gnar people away during a kite, but like that is not an efficient use of Gnar as a champion. No. Sure, he can do that, but you're going to be much better off with a Rumble who has higher damage while you kite and can really open things up and split the enemy team apart with an equalizer. So, questionable picks. Also, pretty much only magic damage coming out of Jin Air, so easy itemization for KT Rolster. Looking not so great for the Green Wings here in our second game of the evening. Maybe they can pull it off. Like you said, Papa, if they start to get some dragons.
That's all they got.
All right, well, we'll see if they can do it. Jin Air versus KT, game number 2 right now. So, Jin Air versus KT, game number 2. KT coming off a very strong victory, taking many of the same champions they had in the last one. Jin Air with a triple substitution. Will it work out for them? Can GBM, Winged, and Pilot take them into a third game in this series?
And remember, earlier series, triple substitution came up trumps for CJ, but there's a difference between subbing in the likes of Winged, GBM, and Pilot compared to basically bringing in the A squad like CJ Entus did with the likes of Shy, Mad Life, and Ambition.
Yeah, definitely. Ooh, nice painting of Arrow there. It's a good one. It's a good painting. Paint Arrow in the MVP interview area.
It's been there a lot. Pentakills aplenty.
He just shakes the Corsair sign though when he has the the pentakills.
And
we don't actually get to talk to him.
And after spending so much time shedding that Scuttle Crab image, he's back.
KT doesn't need more than 2 different AD carries.
No.
They get enough support bans to actually mean that Arrow can play whatever high priority AD he wants. That's kind of the crazy thing.
It's a weird, wonderful world for KT when they're drawing multiple support bans.
Yeah, very helpful. But also, if you think about it, taking the Thresh away, but they still leave up Annie, which is a ban for most teams in most games. We are going to see the lane swap. This time, Jin Air starting on the weak side, so they have to deal with an Annie at the blue buff.
KT get the lanes they want. Remember, they're opting out of the tough early Gnar versus Maokai 1v1 matchup, so they're happy to opt into the lane swap and just allow it to swap back when somebody picks up a Catalyst or works towards the righteous goal for a bit of sustain. Peekaboo. GBM wise to the ways of Peekaboo.
GBM's a smart player. Definitely not going to try and take the same kind of risks that Kuzan would.
Still not a high damage mid laner. Still, again, at least based on statistics, more of a supportive mid laner. To me, it's kind of trademark champion outside the Xerath for ironic reasons is the Lulu that I think they play really well with. They played a really good Jugger Siva to take out a game off Pooh early in the season. But who's going to carry for this Jin Air lineup? I guess with 3 new members, it's kind of a whole new ballgame.
You know, I'm kind of surprised that Jin Air hasn't returned to at least 1 or 2 games of mid lane Lulu, because it's not as good as it was, it's true, but it's still strong.
And a 3-0 on it.
Yeah.
I really do like the Lulu. I feel like GBM is really good. Of course, we all remember last split, the game where he famously got over 1,000 ability power on the Lulu. They run it and they play around it very smartly, but Q in the rack for Lulu recently.
Yeah. Not too much help there. Well, we do have Jay not going to be delayed in terms of his recall. Actually does manage to pull it off, so he will get into the top side. And you were talking about the lane swap. Well, Arrow and Peekaboo probably would like to get into the Corki and Janna lane early, but it's not going to be the end of the world if they don't get there. And they're also just going to be happy to go at 6 because they do have that kill pressure. You can really see it, as we just saw on our screen, the damage per minute numbers, 575 for Nagne versus only 500. That is very low for a mid laner from GBM. But he does have a great KDA. He never dies, so...
But he never dies, and they lose games when he never dies. It's Xerath famously never dying, but still losing.
Yeah, that is an excellent point.
And, I mean, I agree with you on the Siva Annie front. Of course, Siva Annie really like to opt into the Corki matchup pre-6 when it's so predictable when you're using the Spell Shield to Spell Shield the slow-moving Phosphorus Bomb. But if you compare kind of the mismatches, definitely navigating Maokai away from Na, higher priority than getting the 2v2.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. So, going for this, though, Che has to use the Eye of the Storm on himself to block the Boomerang Blade damage. And a little bit of roaming right now from Someday into the river. He does actually, he's putting down wards and taking Scuttle Crab. He's doing some weird stuff while he actually waits for this wave to push up closer to his tower.
So you know what is the most disappointing thing, Monchgristo? Triple substitution. Where is my sweet bard? Where is my sweet? Where's he gone?
That's so true. We could have seen it. It was banned so much in the early season. Actually, it's one of the most banned champions against Jin Air, surprisingly. But we've never actually gotten to see it.
Reminds me of those wrestling angles where the question is, for many weeks, what's in the briefcase? And then no one remembers to show what's in the briefcase. We need to know what the sweet bard is. What is it about this pick?
And honestly, if you're Jin Air, why not just pull it out of the box at some point or other?
It's staying in the briefcase. They put the briefcase out the window. It's gone, Monte Cristo. No sweet bard.
Damn it. If you're having trouble, you might as well try mixing it up. And sure, we haven't seen Bard in a while. We mysteriously saw Bard banned in the last series.
I think he has a very high win rate. Samsung, I
Samsung,
believe, a 1-1.
CJ.
CJ 2-0.
Yeah, so, but I mean, very small sample size.
We were so excited to see how Bard would warp the meta.
All right, here comes Winged. He's on top of Arrow already with that base dive. They're trying to zone him out with Parallel Convergence. Here comes the teleport from the Maokai. Winged is in a world of trouble right now. Someday's just going to get the W down and smash him into the ground, and he actually gets the kill. Che is going to just barely live. That was a weird positioning for the Parallel Convergence. Really not surprising Peekaboo at all. And Someday just fast on the trigger with the TP.
But how smart is Score? Just to navigate bottom. They don't even lose any CS. Score picks up the CS in the bottom lane after the teleport comes through.
They're just diving now. Look at this. Trace may be a little bit too far out. Arrow doesn't have the means to catch up. Chooses not to flash for that with the hop. And now going to get some damage down. They can't quite kill. Ooh, that's one hit.
I was just saying, that's how I know KT are in form, is they don't even lose resources with this move. They teleport to top, still get the resources over to Score, so he's going to be very fast, turbo level 6 almost, for even more jungle pressure. KT, on form.
Yeah, Someday also ends up with a CS and a level lead. You can see Score gets a ridiculous amount of farm for holding that wave, and there's really nothing Corki can do about it with just a Doran's Blade, because Rek'Sai can just go and heal if you get any harass with the passive. So very nice play from KT. Jin Air already falling behind. That first blood goes over to Peekaboo, so it's not the biggest threat. But the poise at which KT turned that around and reacted was impressive to see.
Yeah, very assertive teleport, channeling through to get the answering kill through from Someday. Sivir picks up the BF sword. We're going to finally see the 1v1 matchup, but look at the item difference between the Nara and the Maokai. It's just a null magic mantle against a second Doran and a Ruby Crystal. There's no extra harassment available for Trace whatsoever, and the levels, that's a lot of level disadvantage.
Yeah, and he's not going to be able to have that same presence with the chip because he has to go back to actually, like you're saying, get that Hex Drinker before he can push the lane at this stage. He cannot afford to trade with Someday without that item.
Yeah, 25 AD, very relevant when we're talking about turret damage given the ranged auto attack from Na. So.
And the trading damage too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he has to be able to actually out-damage the opposition, and even with the Null Magic Mantle, KT's Someday going to be stronger, especially since he does have some additional damage off of those Doran's rings.
And this is kind of an obscure thing, but of course, when you go the Hex Drinker, the notable thing about Nara is it does a lot of magic damage, of course, from the Hyper Procs as you get more and more levels. If he doesn't have to itemize armor at all, Someday can just go straight into magic resist. It's going to deal with the Hyper Proc, but if he can build for the triple AP threat of Winged, GBM, and Pilot and get away with some health and magic resist, you know, Trace needs to be pressuring with physical damage, and the Hex Drinker needs to come pronto.
That's a great point. Great point. So, Arrow behind in lane, though. Pilot left alone. Of course, Corki, one of those nice AD carries to get ahead in terms of levels. So, Arrow's still going to be having some issues in this lane for the foreseeable future unless they actually go all in.
Which is always palpable when we're talking about Peekaboo and Annie.
Yeah.
No flash, so maybe a minute and a half of safety, but...
Now, this is very curious to me, Papa Smithy. We haven't seen any action in the mid lane, but Nagne actually winning this matchup all the same. This is not something that we've seen. I mean, we saw Faker absolutely destroy Kuro in this matchup, but I mean, Nagne coming out with an advantage is interesting to me.
It's always a bit risky to kind of judge a Victor lane when the majority of the first minutes, 6-7 minutes, was out without the Augment E, without upgrading the E. You don't have instant wave, so you can't pressure as hard. So this is the sort of matchup where you look at a Victor and be like, why are they even in CS or 10 CS down? And then you check in 10 minutes and they'll be 30 up just because of the nature of how much immediate power you get from the Aftershock Augment.
It's also worth noting that the mid turret has already been chunked by 1/3 too, so he has been doing some work in terms of just getting the necessary chip damage. So you're right, Papa, looking much more similar now, especially that the CS has caught up.
Honestly, just
last wave.
Attacking the power of the first level augment, I think, is important because it gives 150 mana, so you can be a bit more offensive and a bit more liberal with your spells. And just the fact that you can instant clear the backline with almost no AP from runes at level 7 with just an E. It's so much immediate power. Speaking of power,
GBM gets the flash on Burrow, gravity field down, but he's going to die to the poison. And that'll be it. Winged and Che are there, but they are just a hair too late. Chaos Storm sadly swirling over absolutely nothing in the end of that gang. Peekaboo there just in case there's a chance of a re-engage, and look at that. They get a kill, and look at this timing. Immediate deep wards. They have total control. Zero risk from KT Rolster after that gank.
A lot of wards around the dragon defensively from Jin Air, but I have to feel like after a shopping trip comes through, they'll start to power through that objective in the top lane. Sunday's still winning in CS. There's been no more shops, and Trace hasn't felt confident enough to back, hasn't found a back timing. Just giving Someday a free lane to build righteous glory and win team fights.
Wow. Well, Jin Air really needs to come up with something special to get back into this one, because as we were saying, in the champ select, if they don't start to snowball off of Dragon, if they don't get that positioning, what happens here? They need to either siege with this Corki when he gets the Trinity Force and the Victor, but even then, that looking less and less likely.
That's why the Sivir Annie was such a master. We wanted to see the Kog'Maw because Kog'Maw's done so much winning, but you see the Janna and you're like, I see poke comp. Sivir Annie, no more poking really potential just because the backline threat. If you ever try to set up that poke, okay, you put down the gravity field, you're ready to just get those Corki auto attacks off. Maokai flanks, Annie flanks, just Annie flash tippers from the front. Even the Cassiopeia has been doing work. So much risk.
Oh, no, just a Q. I got excited. Arrow couldn't be there in time. Peekaboo was hoping he could wait just a little bit longer for that. Someday had his TP up, but they didn't have a ward in that brush. It could have been actually quite hilarious, but
His name has been very apt this series. Not a very deadly game of peekaboo being played by KT.
Well, not so deadly right now, but they are going to get some wards in. They will be seen going into that tri-brush. Nagne is dodging out some death rays, like you do in the mid lane in this matchup.
At this point, do you even build a Hex Drinker if you're Trace? Because you're just missing really big windows to harass down the Maokai and chip him away. Like, it's just not happening. And has a lot of gold in the bank. I think maybe you have to opt in those team fights.
Scores here, but Nagne coming up from behind. GBM late. There is Che. There is Peekaboo. Peekaboo has the Timbers loaded and waiting.
Maokai solo killed Gnar.
What?
Maokai solo killed Gnar.
Okay.
That's why I was like,
I was busy watching the gank unfold in the jungle, Papa Smithy. So both of, okay, so Trace goes in. He doesn't get the stun.
And then you just watch this through. This auto attacks. Not only has a null magic mantle, no other combat stats at all, and gets pounded. Gets pounded. And that's what KT's been doing all series. And look, he's even given up on the Hex Drinker Dream. It's just building towards a Banshee Veil as far as you can see. Maybe a Spirit Visage, but yeah, if you're 30 CS behind as a Gnar against Maokai, that was one of the trump lanes for Jin Air.
I'm just so surprised by Jin Air. I mean, I brought this up before, but they nearly won a game against SKT. They played really, really well. They took an early Baron, they took an early inhibitor, and it was like a miracle turnaround from a Faker pick that actually got them back into that game.
And let's even go further back in that series. They got pounded in game 1, picked themselves up, and had a super competitive game 2.
But they also picked Rengar in game 1. That was one of those weird games with Jin Air where you're like, why are you picking non-meta stuff when you're actually good at meta stuff?
But even that notwithstanding, losing against SKT in demoralizing fashion, then driving them right to the edge. Whereas in this series, playing their strongest lineup, losing, rolling over and dying, whether that's in their roster changes, but just in their play style. This is not a team that's really trying to push KT at all.
No, not in the least, and Winged hasn't had that same pressure from Score this game, but look at that CS differential. Part of that, of course, was Score getting so much lane farm early on the teleport from Someday, but just the coordination surrounding this KT unit has made Winged kind of a non-factor. They keep invading his jungle. He can't do anything without being seen, but I really have to question subbing out Chaser because it really wasn't Chaser's fault that problem happened in game number 1.
I just don't know.
I mean, maybe Chaser was on tilt or something. I don't know what happened after the game. Maybe he was a little too emotional. He looked pretty mad after game 1, that was for sure.
Just given the Jin Air lineup, just given everything we've built up during the 13, 14 series so far this season, subbing out Chaser doesn't sound like the tonic to solve any problem for the Jin Air Green Room.
No, he's been the best performing player on the team.
By far.
Yeah.
GBM's had his moments, but has been in and out of the lineup. Captain Jack, same story. In fact, rotating doors for the carries. It's only really been Trace and Chaser that have kind of been there the whole time.
Well, I can't say that I blame them. You know, if I'm looking at Jin Air as we see Score take a dragon that will be seen, but Winged having some poison problems as he makes his way over there. Peekaboo is there. I mean, if Winged comes in here, he's just going to die. So they're going to try and pull it out of the pit.
This is the first dragon of the game, so once again, a late dragon, 15 minutes.
Yeah, he's not going to get that. Death Ray attempted steal, but the Smite wins in the end.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, you can't walk through there right now. Spitting some poison. So as I was saying, I mean, here's where you're at with Jin Air, though, right? You really don't actually want to sub out Trace, right? Because Trace is so good at what Trace does, he's actually a valuable asset.
Sure.
Having a top laner who can play in such a low economy is a boon if you have playmakers in your bottom or your mid lanes. So when Jin Air rather has these other players, they're looking for one of them to really step up into that carry role. But it's just not there, right? It's just not happening.
It's just clear in the numbers. The statistics show you. Third last and last in terms of team percentage damage out. They're not getting damage out the mid lane. Captain Jack and Pilot are somewhere in the middle, but they just don't have threats.
Well, and that's it. It just, Jin Air looks like a team that has good players that just can't, they're not good together. This combination of players on this team doesn't produce a good team. I've said it before, but you know who could really use GBM is Najin, because he's the guy when they want just a passive mid laner with a big champion pool to get through the laning phase and consistently, and there we go. There's the any gank going down. Goodbye, Che. Arrow will snag the kill with the help. He doesn't even have to ult for that, just gets an auto in.
Yeah, OQ and GBM sounds like a lovely duo.
Right, and Duke too, right? Then you have a jungler who could just prioritize on ganking the side lanes and just, whatever, GBM, do your thing. And Nagne flashes out. No chance on that. Winged expending his flash to try and get the phase dive stun into the parallel convergence. Gonna be a miss. Nagne, fast fingers.
And I can kind of understand the revolving door at the AD carry role just because Captain Jack's not your answer in 2016. He's not your answer in 2017. It feels like he's not necessarily playing on borrowed time. He's actually played very well this season, but there's a lot of growth, there's a lot of potential in Pilot. It just feels like the balancing act for Jin Air in a lot of ways has been off, especially in the last month or so.
Well, and when we talk about Pilot, too, obviously the comparison that's made most frequently is to Deft, because he has had those shining moments on some of the caster AD carries, but you know that Samsung Blue didn't hit their peak. What was the change that they made? They put in Dade. You have a low economy top, some guy who's smart at playing the top lane, super consistent, super reliable in Acorn, and the change they made was they brought in a big-time carry mid into that roster.
And it's still the greatest roster change of all time.
Yeah, and I'd love to see GBM and Goong just swap teams right now because I think that would actually be very interesting.
I'd love to see Dade on this team.
Yeah. For sure.
Not all the parts there. And Samsung Blue, you could see they were close to something great even when they had Pawn, but Dade was the big push that really put them over the edge. Feels like Jin Air in the off-season maybe have some work to do.
Yeah, there's definitely some changes that could be made, especially on Jin Air and Najin if they decided, uh-oh, here we go, Trace caught out, there's the knock-up from the Rek'Sai. Yep, looks like a little bit of an overlap in the stun there, so they don't actually get the kill. But
they have a lot of turret damage, they have to back away, so okay.
Trace in that Mega Gnar form is going to be a little bit more problematic. Actually, Score taking a turret hit right there. They have to be super careful with GBM on the flank about how do they play that, but Nagne convinces GBM he doesn't want to go in. Someday just standing there. They're going to try and take away the blue buff. Nice denial. Worth noting that KT is still on their way to the perfect game. 20 minutes into this one. No kills, no towers, no dragons for Jin Air.
You want something scarier? Coming into the 20-minute mark, Jin Air hasn't got a kill this series.
Wow. That is frighteningly true.
That's not even true of Spenu. Even Spenu haven't had that kind of false glory levied against them, so lots to be worried about.
Pilot is primed, but they're going to come in. There's the Void Rush into the bottom side of the map. Pilot has to tangle with Someday. Is there going to be follow-up? Looks like no. Someday doesn't want to follow that up. They have wards in the enemy jungle. Score gets out on his tunnel. No problem. Winged is able to do nothing.
Jin Air haven't got those dragons we talked about. Okay, only one gone down so far this game, but that was the only realistic win condition because you look down the lineup. Gnar into the wall sounds lovely, but how does that happen? They don't have the CC to really force anything.
No, there's no setup with this comp. It's very problematic. And, oh, are they going to get a turret?
Are they going to get a kill?
No.
Nope.
No, they're not.
Rek'Sai gets back on the slip and slide. I love this skin so much. It's great.
Do you?
It's great.
It's all right.
The water ski or whatever it is
The
out
jet
of the base.
ski.
It's just amazing.
Is that what you call it in Australia, a water ski?
I think jet ski is probably more popular, but I've heard it.
You know, because water skiing is actually something very different. That's why I asked.
I probably just failed then once first time.
Papa, you never admit that. You just say, that's how we do it down under, mate, and then you get away with it. I don't know. I've never been to Australia.
You've never been to Australia? You've missed out, mate.
I know. I want to go, but it is a little bit tricky right now for me to do that. Can't just get up and take a holiday.
You have been to the next best thing in Hong Kong, Ned Kelly's Last Stand.
That's true. Great bar. If you ever are in Hong Kong, go to Ned Kelly's Last Stand. That place is amazing.
That's some amazing free advertising you just gave them.
I'm not, in fact, sponsored by Ned Kelly's Last Stand. It's just so good that I recommend it.
Neither is Orange. There's not much to talk about in this game. It's not quite panic stations for Jin Air like last game, but 5,500 gold maybe.
Well,
maybe it tells a tale.
They've already missed their biggest window to actually siege with this Corki.
Are we sure they had any windows? Did we accidentally give them the room with no windows? Because I've watched 2 games now. Windows have been closed.
Nagne actually just going to pop it. There's the cleanse, though. Nagne has to back off. He uses Summoner Heal just to get a little bit of speed, but they can't actually get the gank off. Again, there's just no initiation. Someday starting to turn this around now. Trace gets caught out on the side. Mega Gnar comes through. He gets the stun on the score, and he gets the Gnar into the wall, but how much hope is there? And he gets it onto Winged. There's, oh, Someday is he going to die? No, he's not. Flashes out. Kill onto Pilot. Arrow. He's hungry for more. Flash onto Che. Arrow, maybe a little bit too far, but he does actually live. The dream of the perfect game is still alive. KT team fighting their way to a mid-turret kill, and there is no longer any threat from Jinair.
The ultimate irony, Monte Cristo. Jinair didn't get an ILC.
They didn't.
Nope. No windows.
No windows. Stuck in the middle of the plane.
Stuck in a rut are the Jinair Green Wings. This has been kind of unfortunately.
How does this keep happening? All right, let's take a look at this replay.
So, I mean, Trace is just so damn squishy in the front line. He doesn't have the tankiness. It's a great time to transform. Nice 2-man Gnar, but if we're talking about a couple of extra 1,000 gold, that's going to be a different team fight, but they go for some very aggressive turret diving. I love the fact that Arrow wants a double kill here. He's like, I'm going to get both of these. Doesn't get either. Almost dies. But KT can play like this when you're 6,000 gold ahead at 20 minutes.
Yeah, it looks like he was just looking for a crit. Didn't find it. But KT keep on moving forward. They keep on taking these objectives. They have a 7,000 gold lead right now with only 6 kills. But they're flawless when it comes to those dragons and turrets. Oh, no!
Uh-oh. It's looking bad, Monte
No, the dream!
I mean, the dream of never dying is alive.
Okay. I guess I can take that. Oh. Perfect game. Ruined because Someday doesn't want to aggressively and stupidly defend his tower. Still, KT will get the better end of that trade. Definitely the right call to make in that situation.
I like the fact that you backhandedly endorsed a stupid play. You're like, just defend it. You need to keep it up.
He actually probably had the resist because he has Cowl and Shroud.
Okay, now you're going too far. You're rationalizing things you shouldn't be rationalizing. This is dangerous.
I'm starting to make excuses. No, it's fine. It was the better trade. KT definitely making the safer call there.
So much control open for score. Love this player on Rek'Sai. Definitely doesn't take a lot of the team's gold, but he's just so smart. He plays his control junglers so well. You know, his kind of smarts as an AD carry were apparent many years ago, but the fact that he's transitioned so seamlessly into this jungle role and now is really in the upper handful, credit to him for reinventing him, even at a older age than we expect. KT.
And there's the Civarrold going down. They are just going to all flash forward. Look at that. Tibbers just bounced to the side with the Monsoon. There's not enough there to actually save Che. They get another turret on the bottom side with Pilot, but at what cost? KT firmly in control of the mid lane and the top lane right now. They could trade actually 2 tier 2s if they're aggressive enough. Score just on the outside of that Death Ray, going to tap GBM with a Prey Seeker.
I think we made a mistake. Actually moved the Tibbers quite late, so they probably could have taken this turret a bit faster, but not going to be punished at all. Take that out of turret. 5-2 is the turret score. So while the dream of the perfect game is dead, the objectives just keep stacking up for KT.
Well, and you can't fault KT for the way they're playing the map either. Just moving so seamlessly. The rotations are real this game. Arrow gets some more damage down, but GBM will make his way back into the top side, and they're going to have to abandon the tier 2 in the top for the moment. They could fall back to this Baron, maybe try and clear out some wards before they recall.
I think it's time to get excited about KT Rolster, Monte Cristo.
No, Pop Smithy. No, I know what happens when I get excited about KT Rolster. They don't go to Worlds.
But they win IEM. One time.
They won Champions.
That's true. KT Rolster Arrows a year ago. Maybe it's time. The repeat.
No, Papa.
Look, it's been a couple of days since SKT played. I've forgotten what they're even like. KT looked like the best team in Korea.
I've been burned by this before. I can't.
Ever since
I can't
first chatted with you, in, I believe it was 2012, just when you got to Korea. You were well on the KT Bullets hype train.
Hey, it was deserved. They were the second best team in the world at the time of World Championships. They just, circuit points didn't work out for them. They had to play SK Telecom in back-to-back best of fives.
It's just sad that in the international scene, you know, this many years in, they're still relegated to being a bit of a footnote when, you know, we all wonder what could have been.
What can you do? I actually didn't have a lot of faith in KT Arrows at Worlds last year. I thought even if they were going to go, even if they went, they were going to choke because they were just, their play style was overly aggressive, which made for risky situations.
You were in a dark place around then, Monty. That's just the lack of optimism.
I didn't have a lot of faith. I will say that in KT Arrows last year, but we'll see how this KT team does to round it out. Certainly they don't have a lot of circuit points, so they would have to make a very epic run through the playoffs and the qualifier in order to make it, unless they were to do something like win the entire season, which, given SKT's current form, doesn't seem particularly likely.
Every time a challenger to SKT's streak comes up, I ask for one thing and one thing only, Monstrous. It's not too much to ask. I want them to win game 1 of a best-of-3 against SKT.
Yeah.
Make it a series. That's fun. That's drama. That's what we want to see.
Yeah, force at least SKT to have some sort of comeback as we see another tower fall for KT. They finally return to that tier 2. They're starting to ping down. They want to defend against the Gnar, and that's going to be Maokai's job.
Maokai, the solo killer of Gnar earlier in this game, and something that made everyone very surprised, to the extent that you didn't even notice it, because why would you think about it?
Why would I? Why would I be looking at that when I can be watching the ganks happening around the mid lane?
Sivir picks up the wave. Arrow looking to boost his Scuttle Crab win rate.
Doesn't even care about the Last Whisper this game, and why should he? There's no armor on Gnar.
There's no armor at all.
Yep.
Anyway, like not even a cloth arm.
And as if there wasn't any actual threat onto Arrow already, having a BT will just make sure there is never any at all.
We should have kept the damage received graphs. It would have been about 0 last game. Every time we saw Kog'Maw just wading through the team, chilling out. Well, third dragon being started. Trace in a nice spot, but he doesn't have any Gnar raised at all. Wants to find something to auto-attack before we start a fight. Someday. 2 games of Gnar. No massive Mega Gnars really to write home about.
Oh, he doesn't have any setup this game. I mean, what are you going to do?
Kill Peekaboo, maybe?
Oh, actually, the stun was used on the Banshee's Veil. There's the glory. And Peekaboo gets a little bit of help out with his team. Here comes the TP. They're going to flank with the Maokai. Oh, boy, he's coming in. And here he goes. He's coming from the side. There's a big Timbers onto GBM. Something gets all over him. GBM actually flashed that, but can't get out. Pilot will be doomed. Nagne getting very low in the front line, but is he actually going to die? He will. The first kill of the series is picked up by Trace, but that is a rather Pyrrhic victory as GBM has spent this entire team fight running away from the mega tank that is Someday, and they will chain this directly into a Baron. Wing too low to contest. He's not even going to be there in time with Arrow still alive. Someday waddling over to the Dragon right now with that Maokai, or Baron rather. So Dragon taken by KT, and then the Baron.
The Che getting there quite swiftly, actually can't even get any closer to check, fearful of any sort of anti-CC coming through. It's going to be the freest of free Barons to KT Rolster.
Yep, there it goes. Score says, why would I use... What's he doing? He's not even using the smite.
He's waiting
for Nagne.
Wow. You know you're winning when, you know, because your mid laner's always like, oh, I'm coming back up soon, guys. And you're like, shut up. But this time around, have a Baron buff.
Wow. Yeah. That is a very confident hold. You see that so rarely these days. And the reason why is there are many sneaky junglers with a lot of movement and ways to get back into the pit. And frankly, the teleport on the top laner also usually shuts that down, because if he comes in and just pops in there with some sort of burst, you will not be having a good time.
But sometimes you get to have your cake, eat it too, decorate it, maybe just put a nice message on it, like, we love Peekaboo, and
Oh, man. Well, Arrow's doing a good job this series so far.
I love the fact that he can play Sivir and Kog'Maw. Like, there's no, like, identity overlap there at all. They're exactly the opposite.
That's all you need. May not be able to play Corki, but at least he's got those two.
This is like the junglers that can only play Lee Sin and then just fail every other skill shot. And you're like, how does this happen?
Arrow could also play Vayne, to be fair.
He can also play Draven, sort of, maybe.
He can play Draven, it's just Draven is terrible.
I'm not on the Draven hype, on the Draven hate train.
Get out.
I'm not on the Draven hype train either.
Crystal apologist.
I think Crystal last season was a really good Draven.
Thank you for proving that point.
He was, though. Did you see the game? 2 Mikhails?
That was actually a really hilarious game, I will give you that. If you guys don't know, the Draven from Crystal, they actually used a support and jungle Mikhails with a jungle.
No, this story is
Doo-doo.
so much better. This is against IG, so they got surprised by the Draven game 1. It happens, right? Late pick Draven. Game 2, they literally picked Lissandra, like Quadra Lockdown Vi.
Yep.
And then they got 2 Mikhails and he was fine.
Okay, well, is this going to be the final push? Wing to the front line is going to chrono break mysteriously back into the enemy team and die. And here comes GBM. He just gets annihilated by the damage. Looks like Pilot will dodge the petrifying gaze, but not to any real advantage. Baron still coming in. KT just a little bit low, but the Peekaboo at full HP. He does not have flash to engage if they need it. Can they actually push this into a win?
15 seconds on Wayne. GBM still 30 seconds out. After getting quite close range to auto attacks, Arrow was taking the turret a couple of times. Might actually be pulled back, I guess, given the timings.
Yeah, I mean, they're just too low right now on Someday and Nogday, especially with that Victor back up sooner rather than later.
The house went in the slip and slide.
Is that what you live for?
I do. It was really funny. Also, Trace building a Frozen Mallet second when there's just not going to be any scenario where you're free autoing Maokai in some sort of 1v1 split push. I think you have to build for team fights, even though,
man,
you know.
That is really bad.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything in the team fight at all. Maybe if they tank turrets for that extra little bit because you slowed them.
I guess there is that vain hope that you can split push yourself an advantage, but it's just...
Okay, could you look at Maokai's items just to clarify that statement of precisely everything? And the Guardian Angel coming soon?
He's going for that GA.
Can you slow him the second time when he comes back?
There's no hope.
See, I think Jungle Echo's a really good pick, and it's been shown in LPL. It's very high priority there. This is not a Jungle Echo comp in the slightest.
No.
There's nothing to gank anywhere. Ever.
I actually do like it with a different top laner because at least if you're kiting with Victor and Corki, you can prevent people from engaging on you. But that's the only reason.
Trace taking a lot of damage in the front line. He's going to walk through. I mean, yeah, you throw out the parallel conversion, throw out the Victor W. Okay, you can have some 6 zones for maybe some turret damage. I don't mind it there, but you can't have Gnar in the top lane.
No. Pick one. Pick one in this composition. Both of them do not work together. KT just going to move into the top lane now. The super minions have to be dealt with because there's only one Nexus turret, but nobody can handle KT as they walk forward. Parallel convergence not going to work right there. Wing looking for an opportunity. Here's the engage. Pilot finds himself twisted, advanced on. Here comes Arrow. He's getting a lot of auto attacks. There just isn't any engage. They get a Gnar ultimate, but it's just too late. There's no follow-up damage. And now Nogday will take out Gnar. Just going to zone everybody inside of the base. No one can actually get out of the fountain right now, so a clean victory. And KT will end a best of 3, only allowing Jin Air a single kill. And what, no dragons? No dragons.
Yeah, lucky number 13 both times. 13-0 in game 1, 13-1 is the kill score in game 2. That may be a record in terms of lowest overall kill score in a best of 3, but what a performance from KT and building up momentum. This is a team, as I said, coming to Korea in week 3. I was thinking, okay, this team playing smart, doing some smart things, started to cast them. Wheels came off. They had a very poor 3 or 4 weeks. Ever since Peekaboo's come in, 4 series win streak. They're just playing smarter, and the score Peekaboo duo, very good to watch.
Yeah, I know how win streak teams go when they run into SK Telecom, though. However, a very important victory for this KT team. They want to take that 3rd spot because we do have that gauntlet playoffs. If they can manage to unseat Ku, it would be absolutely huge for them because that would mean another, just one fewer best of 3 that they have, and they need those circuit points if this team has their eyes set on